going on, everyone? Welcome on into Falcons Today. On today's episode, we're going to run through the tracker for the defensive coordinator search for Atlanta. At the end of the video, I'll give you my rankings for the 4 candidates that have been announced so far. I will add, we're filming this during our live show, which airs Thursday afternoon, 5 p.m. Eastern. And these lists are always fluid, so there's a chance that there's been a name or two added since this video has been posted, or filmed, I should say. But let's get into the first defensive coordinator interview search. And that starts with the former Jets interim head coach and former defensive coordinator and former Falcons coach, Jeff Ulbrich. So let's start with a little bit of a background, a little bit of a resume, and then we'll start talking about him more in detail. So he was the Jets interim head coach after Robert Saleh was fired. He was their DC under him for 3 seasons, 4 years. He was also the interim DC for Atlanta when Dan Quinn got fired, Raheem Morris got promoted, and then Ulbrich also got promoted. So he's got the connection to the Falcons, of course. He was their linebackers coach for half a decade. He knows Raheem Morris, so he kind of feels like he has a slight advantage already having a good connection with, ownership to a degree, and of course with Raheem Morris. Now, he was a linebacker for the 49ers back in his playing days, and he's gotten a lot of successful linebackers, out from under him. Deion Jones, Tavondre Campbell. 2 guys that were coached by Ulbrich and have had some pretty good success and good seasons. With the Jets, he acquired these guys, but he got some good football out of them. C.J. Mosley, Quincy Williams. So overall, you can definitely look at his track record and see his fingerprints all over the linebackers he's coached that have had really strong seasons and whatnot. If Jeff is the hire, I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to think it's a bad hire. It's not my first choice, though. The reason being is, and maybe it's just because Ulbrich hasn't had that great opportunity yet, and that does tend to come with time down the road and experience. I haven't really gotten the sense that that's the defensive coordinator that can coach a team to being a top 5, top 10 unit. Like when he was with the Jets, there's always kind of a question of, is this credit going to Robert Saleh or is it going to Ulbrich? You know what I mean? So that to me is a little bit of, I wouldn't say a concern, but a fair enough question to go, not my first choice, but not a bad choice. Before we look at the other 3 candidates that have been reported so far, make sure you have your notifications on. As soon as a candidate gets announced, I'm going to get a video to you guys as soon as possible. So I want everyone watching right now to scroll down. Let's get this 12.9% up to 13+% by clicking on the bell icon and selecting all for notifications. On to DC candidate number 2. Let's go with Steve Wilks. This is who they are interviewing. Not all in this interview order, by the way. Some guys have already been interviewed. Some guys are coming up in the near-ish future. But Steve Wilks has been a very popular name tossed out there, so let's go over his background. For one, this past season, 2024, he was more or less a volunteer with the Charlotte 49ers out of Conference USA, I think it is. Before that, though, in 2023, 49ers DC for 1 season. 2022, he was with the Panthers, eventually got promoted to be the interim head coach. 2021, he was in Mizzou as their DC. 2020 took the year off after being the Browns DC for a season. He was the Cardinals head coach for a single season. And before that, he was the Panthers coach for a handful of years in a number of roles, including defensive coordinator towards the end. So when it comes to Steve Wilks, a ton of experience. I just picked his last 6 stops. I could have kept going for a long, long time. So if you are, by you, Raheem Morris, if he is looking for someone who's been around the block, who knows the NFL, he knows how to handle players and manage a team like this, he's your guy. My beef with this selection would be, I haven't seen a lot of great success. He was a one-and-done coordinator for the 49ers. That's a 49ers team in 2023 that went to the NFC Championship game, right? And he got Super Bowl even? Yeah. And they fired him after, 1 season, and they went to the Super Bowl. You had a lot of good toys in your toy chest to work with there, and they didn't bring you back for a second season. My concern is they got to where they got was because of the players, not because of the coordinator. I remember they had to move Steve Wilks from the sideline to the booth or from the booth to the sideline. So while the experience is great, and right now that's something Raheem Morris really needs because hiring his buddy Jimmy Lake was just a mistake due to his lack of experience in the NFL. There is a pro for that with Wilks, but the con is someone point to some great success they've had. A little bit with Carolina when they went to the Super Bowl, but that was a decade ago. Since then, not a whole lot. Before we look at the other two candidates out there, quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players. Basketball season is heating up, and Prize Picks is the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Prize Picks now offers Venmo and MasterCard for quick and easy deposits. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Let's get back to our DC search for the Dirty Birds. Moving on to candidate number 3, I believe. Yeah, I think we kind of wrapped up everything on Wilks. So next one, it is Don Wink Martindale, a very successful defensive coordinator who was the Michigan DC this past season. I know Michigan did not have a fantastic season, but they ended the year on a high note, and they completely stuffed an Ohio State offense that is on its way to the national championship game. So if you're looking for some level of success recently, look what he was working with. I mean, by working with, I mean that last game against Ohio State, numerous Michigan starters on defense did not play. Injured, sat out, whatever it may be. And they still bottled up 3 future wide receivers all going to the NFL. But as for his history and his resume, like we said, Michigan DC. Last 2 years before that, he was the Giants DC. Did not go super duper well in New York. I don't want to put all the blame on everyone else, but I kind of want to put the blame on everyone else. One, him and Brian Daboll just did not see eye to eye. The divorce was kind of ugly. At one point, Dable's like, we're firing him. And then they're like, no, I want you to quit. The whole thing was kind of complicated and hairy. So there's that. But you can look over his 6 seasons as an NFL defensive coordinator as of late. And sure, the last stop in New York was not very good. But, I mean, look at what he did with the Ravens from 2018 to 2020. Second best in points allowed, third best, second best, 3 straight seasons being top 3. And then Michigan this season also had a fantastic defense, top 20 in a lot of really key metrics for well over 100 teams in FBS. So the numbers back up Don Wink Martindale pretty much at every single stop except for recently in New York. But I also think that's a product of he was not working with a lot of good players. That's a reflection of very poor drafting by Joe Shane and that front office in New York. And if you watch the in-season Hard Knocks, almost a year ago now when it came out over the summer or whatever it was, not surprised. They were making some bad decisions there. So the overarching takeaway I have from Martindale is very different style of coach from Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris is a big smile on his face. He loves coming to work. He's a player's coach. He's going to lift up his guys. Don Wink Martindale is more of your old-fashioned style of coach, right? He is someone that's going to chew you out on the practice field. He's going to tear you a new one while watching film. He's not there to hold your hand. And that's not really Raheem Morris' style, but maybe that's good. Maybe it's nice to have some fresh ideas and a different perspective and not just have a bunch of the same thinking types of individuals. So I'm a fan of Wink Martindale for the Falcons DC job. Fourth and final candidate that, as of filming right now, they have set together an interview with, it is Bengals, or former Bengals DC, Lou Anarumo. This is not the most popular name amongst fans, and I'm sure as I'm saying this, someone's already commenting, don't hire him, Petey, don't hire him. I'm higher on Lou than most people are. He's was the Bengals DC for 6 years. Jesse Bates, you might have heard of him, calls him the mad Italian scientist. So if Jesse Bates likes him, I'm going to go with his opinion on Lou over someone that's never met him that's in the comment section. Now, he has a very decorative past of being a defensive backs coach with the Giants, which got him his gig in Cincinnati, with the Dolphins for a while, and then a long time in college football, which would be nice because the Falcons need to draft a corner this year, and I think he could do a nice job of developing a corner, but you don't pick a DC so you can develop a rookie corner. Like, that's just not a good usage of that hire. By the way, quick side note here, I recently rewatched the movie We Are Marshall. I didn't realize when I watched it the first time that their first win came against Xavier, the notable football powerhouse in Cincinnati. Took a lot of fun out of the movie once I realized they beat a basketball school. But as for Lou Anarumo, or anyone else for that matter, taking over the job here, you can look at some really pathetic defensive stats here for Atlanta. Opposing quarterback completion percentage, 69.9. Nice, but not really. Dead last in the NFL. Touchdown passes allowed, 31st. Sacks. Yeah, the Patriots ended up passing Atlanta in the last game of the season. 32nd in sacks this year. Pressure rate, 32nd. So, if you're Raheem Morris, when you're scouting out these DCs and you're in these interviews, what do you think is the first step for fixing the defense? You could go with, if you get a good pass rush going, well, that's going to make the DB's lives a little bit easier because they don't have to hold up in coverage for as long. So the completion percentage is going to go down and the touchdowns are going to go down. Or you can look at it as, if we have some better DBs out there, well, receivers aren't going to get open as quick, so the pass rush can get to the quarterback a little bit quicker. Personally, I'm of the mindset of front to back. Improve the pass rush, and everyone's jobs behind them will get easier and easier. So when looking over these candidates, if the plan to hire Lou is to fix the secondary first, I think we're probably starting at the wrong spot. So if I had to rank these guys from 1 to 4, here would be my rankings. I'd put Wink Martindale first, Jeff Ulbrich second. I'm going to put Lou third because I know I'm on an island here, but he did have some really good defenses with the Bengals. And then Wilks, he's got great experience, but his defense has never been that good. And the 49ers firing him after one season, to me that says a lot about whether it was the wand or the wizard. I think in this case it was the player, not the coach. All right, that will do it for us on today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you turn on your notifications, and I'll see you all next time.